Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Garden Girls podcast with Meg, Dagny, and Amy. If you listened to our last episode, we talked about our failures going on in the garden. But this episode, we're going to take a little bit of a pivot and we're going to talk about some successes. More specifically, some different varieties of things that we've tried and have done well this year and some of our favorite seed companies that are standing out to us this year and just what has impressed us the most in the garden. Dagny, if you want to start us off, what are your favorite seed companies that are just kind of standing out to you this year, like things that are doing really well, and where did they come from?
I'm really excited for this episode, first of all, because one of the things that I'm always telling people who think they're doing everything right with a plant and it's still not growing is to try the same variety from a different company. So I'm hoping that we can give people a lot of options here to try depending on their specific climate, because it is really specific to your climate. And two of the companies that I've grown forever because they have varieties adapted to my northern climate, so they do that work for me basically of researching what will do well, are Fedco, which is based in Maine. And I believe they only have organic seed. I'm not 100% sure on that. And they're more of a smaller company that has still a very old school website, which I kind of love. And Johnny's. So Johnny's, I think, is more familiar to people outside of my specific area, but they are also based in Maine. I got all my tomatoes from a website called Tomato Fest this year. These were all dwarf indeterminates, but they also had a lot of other tomato varieties, and they sent me some cool freebies that I actually have yet to try. But I've had great luck with them. Like, all the plants have been disease free. So I'm excited to see how they continue to grow throughout the season. And I also always try to do one huge seed order from a single company each spring and fall to really put them to the test. So last year it was Botanical Interest, which just can't be beat for their beautiful seed packets, which I can never seem to throw away. I don't know about you guys, they just need to be framed. This year I'm trying Territorial Seed Companies. I think they're based in Oregon. So they're nowhere near me, but their climate isn't too far off from the way that our climate is here. And they have a ton of really interesting varieties that I just planted for fall. So I'm doing dragon carrots and snowman carrots from them for fall. I'm doing red globe cabbage. I've somehow never grown cabbage before. I don't know why or how I like cabbage. I'm doing a giant winter spinach, prism, and red boar kale from them. I'm trying to add a lot more purple again. I did this in the spring as well with our Beauregard snap peas and purple peppers and things like that. So picking purple varieties for a lot of my brassicas too. So those are the main ones that I'm working with this year. I've tried lots of others, but I think I like to kind of have my decision made for the year. And that's why I tend to just buy the majority of them from one new company and then experiment with more specialized seeds from just a handful of other companies. And a specific example outside of just picking your seed company overall based on location is with eggplant. So eggplant in our northern climate, it doesn't tend to do as well. It's very sensitive to wind. It's very sensitive to cold. And I went on the Fedco website, and again, it's they've done the research for me, which I love. They already have varieties like the diamond eggplant that they've proven that it grows really well in another climate. So that is why I tend to fall back on these smaller local companies to get those varieties that I know that I'm struggling with. How about you, Amy?
I am in a very similar situation. I also choose a local company for most of my seeds. There's a company who actually are like a 10-minute drive from my house, and they're called Real Seeds. And so for all the UK people, I highly recommend Real Seed. A lot of them are organic. I don't know if all of their seeds are organic certified, but I think what they grow on their land is, and I think they buy in from some other places, maybe. They're super local, which means their seeds are also tried and tested for my microclimate. They're also just a really lovely company. They'll send you instructions with your seeds on how to save seeds from those plants. So it doesn't seem like they're just trying to, I don't know, trying to get all your money, basically.
I
Yeah,
love that. That's really cool.
It's so empowering to the gardener.
for sure. Like they really care about teaching you those things. And getting people to save their own seeds because I think it's quite important. And also, they don't have like F1 varieties, they're all open pollinated. So, for anyone who doesn't know, F1 varieties are hybrid plants. And if you try and save the seeds from those, the plants that you then grow from those seeds might not necessarily be true to the plant that you saved it from, which is kind of why when I see those hacks on TikTok and Instagram about like growing things from the store, like tomatoes and things like that, I'm a bit skeptical
Mhm.
because you don't know if that's a hybrid and therefore the plant that you grow from that might not have the fruit that you really wanted.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I also, every time I see those videos, I'm very skeptical. I'm like, I just don't think people realize that they're not gonna grow the same. Most likely, like, they could, but most likely, it's not gonna look or taste the
Yeah.
same.
And it's not a variety that's specifically chosen for your climate. It might be grown in like Morocco or somewhere, which I feel like a lot of the veg here is grown in southern Spain and Morocco, which if you take a plant from there, it might not do so well in my cold, rainy British climate. So yeah, real seeds are amazing. I love them. I love all of they have really lovely varieties as well. So it's not just like boring stuff. It's a really nice, like curated collection of unusual things as well as really productive regular things that you can just rely on. And then also a new favorite for me now is She Grows Veg heirloom seeds. She's just started this year or maybe the end of last year. It's Lucy Hutchings, I think, from her Instagram as She Grows Veg. So she started out as like a gardening Instagrammer and now she has her own seed company and she has, I think, partnered with Baker Creek Seeds. So a lot of their seeds are now in the UK, whereas we were previously not able to get that many interesting varieties. So I think she's somehow working with them. I'm not sure. But aside from those, I am not really loyal to any seed company, to be honest. I love trying out different things. I love saving my own seeds. I love going to seed swaps. I've got like a really nice local seed swap event that happens near me every spring and autumn now, I think, as well. So yeah, it's really nice to go to things like that. And I just like collect seeds from wherever I find them. And I also still use up the seeds that I bought like 5 years ago because some seeds last for years and years and years. So a bit of everything really, but real seeds are my number one.
I've been completely impressed by how long seeds last. Like, I
Yes.
definitely have some Fedco
Yeah.
stuff from like 2020 that I put in the ground this year and it's doing fine. Like, it depends on the variety. I know carrots generally do not do well after a year, but anything that's like a thicker, bigger seed, you're probably going to have good luck with. So, yeah, I've always like collecting little bits. Like, I've got like 2 seeds left in the pack, but I can't get rid of it.
Yeah, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, for sure, they last. Like, I have, I think, five-year-old seeds that I planted this year, did totally fine, and then squash, like you said, like the bigger seeds, sunflowers, things like that, but yeah, I think the it depends because there's finicky ones like carrots, and I know turnips and parsnips
Mhm.
for sure are ones that don't last, like, a year, but the ones that can last, just stretch them out as much as you can. So the seed companies that are standing out to me this year, I'm kind of like Amy, I'm not super loyal to one particular seed company. I really like to shop around every year and try different ones like Dagny was saying. And I've been really surprised this year by a few different places. Southern Exposure Seed Exchange is always a go-to for me. I'm in the southeast. It's like a pretty challenging environment to grow down here. I mean, we're hot, we're humid, we have so many bugs, pests, and it's just like a huge challenge. And they're called Southern Exposure because they kind of cater to the South. They're growing these varieties that are disease resistant and pest resistant. And so I have a lot of really great experience with them, specifically the squash. If you listen to any of my videos about squash vine borer, I have a huge issue with that. And so I have to figure out which varieties I can plant that are squash vine borer resistant. And Southern Exposure Seed Exchange definitely has the most variety I've ever seen of Cucurbita machata, which is the species of squash that is resistant. I mean, they have so many different varieties that you can't find anywhere else. So I really commend them for that, for like looking out for us Southerners that are dealing with that. And they have a lot of mildew resistant stuff as well, because we deal with a lot of powdery mildew. And another company I've been really surprised by this year is Burpee Seeds. I bought from Burpee Seeds before, But this year, I actually did a partnership with them, and I think, Dagny, you did
Yes.
as well,
Yes.
and they sent some actually, like, starter plants, and I was like, "I'm not just saying all of this because I had a partnership with them, like, this is
No,
for
they're
real."
the best plan.
They're monsters. They're
Monsters.
monsters in my garden right now. I am, like, really, really shocked. I was really impressed, and even the seeds, they sent some seeds as well, and there nothing has failed. Everything is growing so well, so crazy, and I'll go into, like, some specific varieties later. I mean, they've been around for a long time. I think that they're just, like, a tried and true seed company for sure. They have a lot of hybrids, like, one thing I think I've learned this year is to open myself up to the hybrids, especially if you're having trouble growing something, especially for your environment. Like we were talking about the regionally adapted seeds. It's really important to find a seed company in your area because those seeds are regionally adapted. So that's important if you're struggling growing something. But also, if you're struggling growing something, I think you should try hybrids out because they have been bred to become resistant to things that are taking out crops, like different pests and different diseases. Another seed company I tried this year was High Mowing Seeds, and they also have just a ton of hybrids, tons of things that they've bred for resistance to different stuff. Botanical interest is obviously like they're pretty tried and true. I go to them mainly for like your good old heirloom varieties, like your
The
basic kind
classic.
of, yeah, the
Yeah.
classics. Like I go to them for the classics. Then I will shout out some local North Carolina seed companies that I really love. There's a local company called Kids Seed Company, and it's so cute. They're this little family based in Asheville, North Carolina, and their kids are really involved in the gardening, and their kids are really involved in the seed collecting and the packaging and stuff. And it's just it's like so
That's
wholesome. It's so cute.
adorable.
It's so wholesome, so cute, and they have really great seeds, like, I think their family's also from Hungary, so if y they have a lot of Hungarian pepper varieties, which is really cool. I'm growing a paprika variety from them. I wanna make, like, genuine Hungarian paprika because when I visited Hungary a few years ago, I, like, became obsessed with the paprikash and, like, all the paprika dishes, so that's really cool about them, and then another one is Sow True Seeds, so, like, SOW, like you're sowing seeds. They're also based out of Asheville, and they have really great seeds as well.
I'm also growing paprika peppers this year, but they're a little bit behind, so I'm hoping that I'll get enough for a good harvest because I want to make homegrown paprika as well.
Like, who doesn't? Paprika is just one of those underrated spices. It's so good, like, I could eat it on everything.
You guys are making me jealous.
Have you guys ever tried that Hungarian dish? It's called paprikash, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right,
No.
but it's like a paprika kind of stew almost with, like, chicken, and they make, like, these little dumplings. Oh, it's
Oh my
so
That sounds
goodness.
good.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's so good. I can't wait to make it.
I feel like I'm growing like 30 different kinds of peppers and somehow none of them are paprika. And now I'm very disappointed.
I think you can technically make paprika from any kind of pepper, like a sweet pepper, but I think there are certain varieties that Hungary uses for its
I
famous
see.
paprika. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure you can just, any sweet pepper that you're growing, maybe like a red bell pepper or an
Yeah.
Italian roasting pepper, I think you can just dry it out and grind it into powder, and technically, I think it's like a paprika.
I let some of my shishitos go red and I'm like drying them now because I want to know what they taste like. Like they have such a deep smoky flavor to me when they're fresh that I'm very curious like how they'll dry.
That sounds good. I'm also big, hopefully, going to make my own harissa this year, which I'm very excited about.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Harissa is another underrated condiment. It's so delicious. Are there any specific tomatoes or peppers that you have to put in
Well,
that?
I read that Thai chilies are good for it. I don't know how true that
Okay.
is, but I have some of those. So yeah, I'm going to give it a go.
Oh, I do too. You'll have to like send me a recipe. Okay, so I think we've talked about our favorite seed companies. Now let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into specific varieties. So, everyone that's listening, get out your notepads. We're going to give you the varieties that really stood out to us this year. Dagny, go ahead and start us
Yeah,
off.
I am super excited about this one because I've never grown it before. I didn't even realize that I could grow it in zone 6, and that's actually the green globe artichokes. I'm growing these from botanical interest this year. And I guess you just need to get them really cold and make them think that they've been through one winter in order to make them flower in the first year. And it's worked for me. So I put them out. I think I had 4 plants total. I ended up losing one to frost and one to neglect. And then the other two are thriving. So, it's just survival of the fittest over here sometimes. And especially with a plant like that where you have to put it out before it's like time to put it out, it's a risk. So I probably should have started more. But green globes in particular are known for being good in a northern climate like mine. I am going to try to actually overwinter them. I don't know if I'll have success, but we did have a really warm winter last year. So I'm hoping that if I could put a cold frame over them and cut them back, that maybe they'll come back and be even bigger and better next year because I'm getting a lot of artichokes off of them, but they're really small artichokes because the plant's just not mature. Like it's just not a huge plant. And normally that's the issue in my climate. Like they just don't have a chance to get that big throughout the season. But those are from botanical interest. Then I have one from someone on Instagram gave it to me. I honestly don't know who it was because it was a few years ago now, but last gem corn is one that I'm really excited about because it's just like a surprise. Every time you open one of the ears, like you don't know what you're going to get. And it's really interesting to see how it grows and just go through the whole process of pollinating the plants by hand and stuff because I don't have like a huge plot of it. And I'm just really enjoying it. It's just something really rewarding about it because it's such a big plant and it comes from such a tiny seed. The next one is sugar baby watermelons. I grabbed these from Fedco. Sugar babies are like personal sized watermelons and they're just the cutest things ever. And they do super well in my climate. I think they do really well a lot of places. They're supposed to be pretty easy to grow, but I get those from Fedco. And a new one that I've never tried before came from Burpee and those were lemon cucumbers. And have you guys heard of these? Like, they don't look real to me. I still don't understand it. Like, they literally just look like lemons, but inside is a cucumber. They're kind of citrusy. They have a really thick rind, like, they're very sturdy fruits. And they were the most prolific cucumber vines I've ever had. Like, they just kept going and going. Like, I was picking 10 of them a day at one point, and then the light ended up hitting them because we got a lot of rain. But I'm planting another round of them because I just couldn't believe how many I was getting off of these plants. And they had incredible germination rates, which has been true for me for anything I've grown from Burpee. And then the last one that I've never grown before and I'm really excited about is tomatillos. So grab these from botanical interest. And I don't think I've ever even eaten a tomatillo before this. So that I
Yes.
know,
Same. I think
I
Yes.
same.
know.
I'm growing them for the first time this year, and I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever eaten one.
You guys, I'm
I just
disappointed.
I just ate the first one and I was shocked and amazed and I love them and I will never not grow them now.
You've
They're
never had, like, salsa verde?
no,
Like, green salsa? Oh my god.
no. I know, but I'm gonna make it now. So
Yeah.
I'm
Oh my god,
fixing
I'm
it.
so excited for you. You're gonna love it. You have to make I'm gonna send you so many recipes
Yes,
because
please.
tomatillos are so underrated. Like, I have a passion for them. I love them so much. I think that they're even better than tomatoes, to be honest.
They're such an interesting flavor. Like it's like nothing else. It really is like
Yeah.
nothing else. I love your tomatillo tower, by the way. It's so lush. I'm like, very jealous of your tower.
Oh, yeah, I tried that. That's, like, a new way because tomatillos, they can get crazy, like,
I am
they
noticing
can
that.
get yeah, so they need to be staked really well, and before I was just using, like, regular sized tomato steaks, and that was just not doing it. I mean, they sprawl even worse
Yeah.
than tomatoes do, and you have to plant 2. That's one major thing. Every time I post about tomatillos, I've seen so many comments from people like, "Oh, I planted one and it's flowering, but I'm not getting the tomatillo." And I think a lot of people don't realize you have to have 2 because they are not self-fertile. They have to cross-pollinate. So just if you're growing tomatillos and you have that problem, it's because 'cause you're only growing 1 tomatillo. You have to grow 2 or more for them to cross-pollinate. But I got they're called Titan tomato trellises from Gardener's Supply
Mm,
Company.
I've
And
seen
those are
those.
my favorite tomato trellises because they are huge. They're the tallest tomato. They're a little pricey. I think they're about like 30 bucks per, but I've had them for like 3 years now. They're super durable. They're massive and they can pretty much hold anything. And I planted 2 tomatillos right beside of each other in the one Titan cage, and it's making this beautiful like tower. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've had my eye on those towers. They look really, really nice. But those, yeah, I didn't realize they grow more like a house cherry or a ground cherry. Like they kind of
Yeah.
just like flop over and they're definitely not in a good spot to be flopping over. And I have not figured out what to do with them. So I may need to just grab some of those.
100% recommended, for sure.
All right, Amy, let's hear it.
I grew crystal lemon cucumbers last year actually and loved them, but for some reason forgot to sow them this year. And I feel like if I had sown some, I probably would have had a lot more cucumbers by now because I feel like they just pop off. They just keep going. But next year, I need to remember to sow some for next year. But my top 5 for this year, I would say are Primabella Super Early Tomato, and that is from Real Seeds. My favorite. It's just a red cherry tomato. It doesn't look that exciting, but it's so early. And it's been such a bad year for tomatoes and any kind of like warm weather loving plant this year. And if I hadn't have planted those, I would have had nearly no tomatoes by now. And I've had a few from that one variety. So I recommend that if you want a nice early tomato variety. And also, I am thinking about trying to breed my own tomato variety this year, like cross a couple of different things. And I feel like that would be a great one to like cross something fun with. So I can try and get something fun that's also early, but we'll see how that goes. I don't know how easy it is to do. It might be quite tricky. I've heard a lot of people say they try and cross pollinate them and then the flower just drops off and dies. So I'll give it a go.
Yeah, you have to be really careful and you have to like are you closing off the flower with like a bag or
Yeah.
something so it doesn't cross-pollinate with anything
That's
else?
what I was
Yeah.
thinking of doing. Get a little mesh bag. I think I bought them already actually. And then
Yeah.
cover the whole flower with that.
That should be fun. That's exciting. I love like crossing things, like trying to make cool hybrids. It's just so
Such a fun
fun.
Yeah,
experiment.
I want Amy's tomato.
It's like, "Oh my god, I'm a botanist over
Yeah.
here." Like I'm a little scientist over here.
Very excited. So I'll keep you updated on how that goes. Well, maybe you'll find out next year if
Mhm.
it works. And then my second variety is, well, it's actually a mix of varieties. I found on also the same website, Real Seeds, they had at the right at the bottom of their page of lettuces, they had this mix and it was called Morton's Secret Lettuce Mix. And the way they described it, they were like, there's loads of new varieties in here, some that aren't for sale yet, like brand new, weird stuff. No pictures, I don't think. And I was like, sure, I'll try it. And the lettuces that grew from that packet were the most beautiful things ever. And they germinated so well. I actually accidentally spilt the packet onto like a tiny little tray. So I had hundreds of them. But they were like freckly ones. They were like the most beautiful, deep red, purpley, shiny, just amazing colored ones. And then oak leaf varieties, which are just beautiful, just an amazing mix. And they were all really happy. So highly recommend that. And it went out of stock after I ran out of the seeds for months, but it's just come back into stock now and I've done an order. So I've got some more seeds. And I've left some of my favorite plants to go to seed as well to save some because I did not want to run out. And then the third variety is the broad beans that I grew at the beginning of the year that are pink inside, which is so cute. Like when you open up the little pods, they're all
I
pink.
saw those.
Those are
I
amazing.
saw those. I want to find those because they were beautiful and I love broad
Yeah,
beans.
they're so cute. They just like the most beautiful, like Barbie pink. And because the pods are so green when you open it up, and it's just such a contrast. I love that. And they're called Red Epicure and they're from Marshalls. Although when you know, when you like blanch them in boiling water and then take the skins off, the second shell on the actual bean, that goes a really weird color when you boil them. It goes like gray, purple,
Oh,
yeah. So it's not as pretty once it's cooked, but to harvest it is pretty.
I feel like everything gets
Yeah,
uglier when it's cooked, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
most things. And then some radishes that I grew again towards the beginning of the year that were just little purple round ones. They were called viola and they were just perfect. You know, when you say something, you're like, oh, every single one of this plant is great, which is very rare. They were just the perfect little round radishes. They didn't get bothered by pests or anything, and they were a lovely deep purple color. And then the last one I would say is my kale, because my kale is like taller than me now. And that one's called East Frisian palm kale, again, from my favorite real seed. And it's really tasty and it's massive and it survived a lot of caterpillar pressure and slugs. So recommend that one.
You just reminded me when you said that they cook differently of another one that I'm really excited about from Row 7. Row 7 sent me a bunch of seeds this year, and they're kind of, I think they're like, they work with chefs to develop their varieties. So they're just really interesting takes on certain things. And so they sent me the Beauregard sap peas that are purple. And a lot of the times when we get purple plants and we cook them, like purple green beans, they just turn back to green and you lose that beautiful color. But Beauregard was specifically bred to retain that purple when you cook them. And they do. I tested it and they did so, so well. I'm going to be planting them again this fall. So if you need more purple in your garden, I definitely recommend those.
I got some of those as well, and I can't wait to plant them in the fall. They sent a bunch of, like, really cool seeds. There's just so many seed companies. It's hard to like, if we were to say every single one that we love, it would probably be like a 2-hour podcast because there's just so many and they're all good. But I also have to say something about the lemon cucumbers and the red lettuce. So I grew lemon cucumbers and I didn't like them. I
Really?
did not like their taste. They are super prolific, but I don't know, they were just I don't know, I didn't like the citrusy taste to them.
So I did some research because I was like, I don't actually know when to pick these. So did you harvest them only when they were fully like bright yellow?
I probably harvested them at different stages because I was trying to like them so much, so I probably I don't know, it was just something about the flavor that was off for me, and I've heard that from other people. I think that maybe those are it's one of those varieties you either love it or you hate it. It's like the yellow pear tomato, that's another one I hate, but a lot of people love it. I don't know, maybe I'm just, like, have a weird palate. I don't know, and then the red I can't eat red lettuce because it reminds me of seaweed.
The
Like,
flavor or just the way it looks?
I never would have thought of that.
It's just the way it looks. I don't know.
You don't like seaweed?
No, I like the seaweed, like, snacks, but they're
Yeah.
obviously, like, what are they, like, fried or something? Or how do they're
Are they like
baked? I don't know, they're different,
dehydrated or
but
something?
I don't know, but if I were to just, like, bite into seaweed, I think I would probably vomit. I don't
The
it's
texture.
mm-mm,
Okay.
and it's, like, the texture and the look. I don't know, something about it just, like, sets me off, so I don't grow any red varieties.
Interesting.
Or if I grow a mix and there's red in there, I'll just, like, give it to my chickens because I just don't I don't know.
They're like, "Can we have some green lettuce, please?"
It's probably healthier for you because it obviously probably has, like, more anthocyanins or whatever, but I just can't get past it looking like seaweed. Like, it just looks like when you get in the ocean and there's just a blob of stuff floating in it? That's, like, what it reminds me of.
That's so specific.
I really like the freckled lettuce. I think the freckly lettuce is so pretty.
It is, that's the cutest lettuce, for sure.
Freckled romaine is my favorite.
So, my top 5 picks, I don't know if you guys listened to our last podcast, but I was talking about how I have always struggled growing eggplants. But this year, it's been an amazing eggplant year, and I think it's because of the variety, because usually my eggplants are covered in flea beetles, and I have a few different varieties going, but this specific variety is doing the best, and it's just a monster. And it's the Midnight Moon hybrid eggplant from Burpee Seeds. So like I said, I'm, like, opening myself up to hybrids this year, and I'm really glad that I did because it seems like my hybrids are just doing the best. And those eggplants, it's first of all, the plant is just so productive. Those eggplants are so perfect. It's like the eggplant emoji. They're so shiny, they're smooth, they haven't been munched on, they're just perfect. They look fake, like they don't even look real. So I'm really pleased with that one. The next one is another hybrid from High Mowing Seeds, and it's the Prospera F1 Basil. I have always struggled. I think a lot of people here in the Southeast struggle with growing basil because it gets powdery mildew immediately. Basil is super finicky with the mildew. I was reading some article about a specific type of mildew that affects basil, has been affecting basil. Have you guys heard about that? Do you
No,
have?
I've never had
Oh,
mildew on my basil ever.
No.
I always have mildew on. I've
Oh,
never been able to grow such perfect basil before this year because it's just so much powdery mildew. Well, this basil, it's a hybrid and it's bred for powdery mildew resistance. When I first sowed the seeds, I was like, this is not going to work. We just have so much mildew here. But I was wrong. It proved me wrong. It is the best basil I've ever grown. It's so full, so bushy, so perfect, no mildew. So I will probably forever grow that. It's a shame though, because like Amy was saying, with the hybrids, you can't save the seeds. So I always try to stick with heirloom varieties so that I can save seeds from it, but I don't care. I'll buy those seeds forever and ever because the basil is just so
It's worth
perfect.
it.
It's so worth it. When yeah, like it when you can find a variety that grows that well for you, it's worth it, whatever it is. The next one is the super sauce tomato from Burpee. So it's a paste tomato. And usually paste tomatoes are determinate, but this one's indeterminate. And the tomatoes are just so huge. So part of their marketing for these seeds they say that one tomato will fill an entire jar of sauce.
no way.
Yeah, no, it's true. Those they're huge, Dagny. They are.
Oh my God.
I know I said I wasn't growing any indeterminate tomatoes this year, but like I was saying, like we had that partnership with them and this is
Yeah.
one that they sent me. And I'm like shocked. I've talked with several other gardeners that are growing it too. And they're like, yeah, it's like the best sauce tomato. So I might have to make an exception for my dwarf thing for this one to grow it again because the tomatoes are massive.
How is the flavor though?
It's great.
Really?
It's like aroma, like, it tastes like your regular Roma paste tomato, but it's just huge, and it's meaty, it's low water content, so it's like your regular paste tomato, they're just massive, and the plant is super productive as well. It's growing like crazy. I can't it's reminding me why I hate indeterminates, to be honest, because it's just like
Too
it's so
much.
it's too much, honestly. I'm gonna have to, like, top it off or something, but that one really, really surprised me. My next one is this is a classic for me every year, the pineapple ground cherry from Botanical Interests. Love that variety of ground cherry. There's several different varieties of ground cherries. I think Aunt Molly's is probably the most common one, but this one is pineapple. It's supposed to be even more pineapple flavored than the Aunt Molly's, and I think it is. Like, it's so sweet, and it tastes like pineapple, so I will forever, forever grow that one in my garden. I love ground cherries so much. I wish the stores sold them because I definitely go through, like, winter withdrawals of them, and I would buy them in the store if they sold them, but
I've made it into jam just to have that flavor in the winter.
I love making jam with it. My ground cherry upside down cake, it's so good. It's what I look forward to every year. I always make one and we devour it. It's so good.
I'm gonna have to try
Yes,
that this
I need to
year.
make that.
You have to. I'm gonna actually bug you guys to make it because you're both growing ground cherries.
You never let us down with your recipes. Your recipes are always on point.
Oh, I will send you guys a recipe because oh, so good.
Yes.
So my last one is the South Anna butternut from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. And like I was saying, they have really great regionally adapted seeds for us in the Southeast. And I've always struggled to grow butternut squash, even though it's a Cucurbita machata, which is supposed to be resistant to squash vine borer. I've found that butternut and honey nut are not as resistant as other varieties. And I've always tried to grow butternut for years. I've tried to grow heirloom butternut. This one, I think, is a hybrid. So it's an improved butternut and it's supposed to be even more resistant to squash vine borer and powdery mildew. And it's true. It's growing so prolifically right now in my garden. It's got like 4 or 5 butternuts on it. Yeah, it's just growing perfectly. It's laughing in the face of not just squash vine borer, but squash bugs as well. It's just like it's untouched. It's great. It's amazing. All right, so I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Everyone listening, be sure to check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Let us know in the comments which seed companies you love and which varieties are doing well for you. And be sure to include where you live as well. And maybe we can all kind of learn from each other's experience. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to keep your ears peeled for our upcoming episodes and happy gardening.